Being petite is not the problem. Most dresses are. Because the vast majority of dresses sold today are designed and proportioned for an average to taller frame, and then simply shrunk down in size without ever being reconsidered in proportion. The result is a dress that fits a petite woman's measurements perfectly, while completely overwhelming her actual silhouette. The hemline lands at the wrong point. The waistline sits in the wrong place. The print is scaled for a body that is 6 inches taller. And the dress that looked elegant on the hanger ends up making her look shorter, wider, or swallowed whole the moment she puts it on. If you are a petite woman over 50 and you have stood in a dressing room more times than you can count wondering why nothing seems to hang the way it is supposed to, I want you to hear this clearly. It was never your body working against the dress. It was the dress working against your body. There are 6 specific dress styles that are built for the petite frame at this exact stage of life. Not adapted. Not adjusted. Built for it intentionally with proportion as the starting point rather than an afterthought. Dress style number 4 is the one that surprises the most petite women when they hear it. It is the style that conventional advice has told petite women to avoid for years, and on a petite frame over 50 it is actually one of the most elegant and most flattering choices available, for a very specific and explainable reason. Stay until the end, because the right dress is not about hiding your height. It is about finally working with it. Welcome back, beautiful. So glad you are here. And if you are brand new, welcome to Ageless Glow, where women over 60 discover how to look genuinely stunning without spending a fortune. Hit subscribe and let us get into these 6 dress styles right now. Tap subscribe and the bell so you never miss a video. New style tips every week made specifically for you. Now let us go. Here is the proportion principle behind every single style on today's list. A petite frame has less vertical space to work with than a taller frame. Every dress decision either uses that vertical space wisely, creating the illusion of more height and a longer, leaner line, or it interrupts that space, creating the illusion of less height and a more compressed silhouette. There is no in between. Every dress is doing one or the other. And once you understand which decisions create length and which decisions interrupt it, choosing the right dress stops being a guessing game entirely. 6 styles. All built around using the vertical space correctly. Let us go through every one. Dress style 1. The vertical sheath with a defined V neckline. The first dress style is the foundation piece every petite woman over 50 should have at least one version of in her wardrobe. The vertical sheath dress with a defined V neckline, falling to just above or at the knee, in a single solid color from shoulder to hem. Here is why this specific combination works so powerfully on a petite frame. A sheath silhouette follows the body's natural line without adding width anywhere, which on a petite frame is essential because any added width reads as a larger proportion of the total height available. The single solid color eliminates any horizontal break point where the eye might stop and read the body as shorter than it is. The V neckline is doing equally important work. It creates a vertical line from the collarbone downward that elongates the neck and upper body, and it draws the eye upward toward the face rather than letting it settle at any one horizontal point on the dress. Choose a knee length or just above the knee hemline specifically. On a petite frame, hemlines that fall mid-calf or below often cut the leg at the widest point and visually shorten the overall line. Knee length keeps the leg looking long and unbroken down to the shoe. Dress style 2. The high-waisted fit and flare with a short bodice. The second style addresses one of the most common petite proportion mistakes without the wearer ever realizing it is happening. The high-waisted fit and flare dress, with the waist seam sitting at the narrowest point of the torso rather than at the natural anatomical waist, paired with a deliberately short bodice above it. On a petite frame, the torso is often shorter relative to the legs than on an average frame. A dress with a standard placed waist seam can end up sitting too low, which shortens the leg line below it and lengthens the torso above it in a way that throws off the entire proportion of the body. A high-waisted seam with a short bodice corrects this immediately. It shortens the visual length of the torso just slightly, which in turn lengthens the visual length of the leg below the waistline. The flare of the skirt then continues that elongating effect with movement and gentle volume that never overwhelms the smaller frame. Look specifically for the waist seam sitting noticeably above the natural waistline, not simply at it. The difference of even 1.5 inches makes a measurable difference in how the legs read beneath the skirt. Dress style 3. The monochrome wrap dress with a narrow belt. Dress style number 3 solves 2 problems simultaneously. which is exactly why it belongs on this list. The monochrome wrap dress, made in a single color from top to bottom, with a narrow self-tie or thin separate belt at the waist. The monochrome element is doing the same elongating work described earlier. A single color from neckline to hem removes every horizontal break that could shorten the visual line. But the wrap detail and narrow belt adds something the simple sheath does not: a defined waist that creates shape without adding bulk. This matters specifically for a petite frame because a wide or heavily structured belt can overwhelm a smaller torso, taking up a disproportionate amount of the limited vertical space available. A narrow belt, no wider than about 1.5 inches, creates definition without consuming the space that needs to stay long and uninterrupted. The wrap detail itself naturally creates a soft V at the neckline as well, which means this single dress style is quietly doing 3 elongating jobs at once: monochrome color, narrow waist definition, and a V neckline, all working together rather than competing. Dress style 4. The vertical stripe or pleated midi. Here it is. Dress style number 4. The one that surprises every petite woman who hears it described. The vertical stripe or vertically pleated midi dress, falling between the knee and the ankle, with the lines running top to bottom rather than side to side. Conventional advice has told petite women for years to avoid midi length entirely, on the theory that any length below the knee shortens the leg automatically. That advice misses an important distinction. It is not the length itself that shortens the leg. It is what happens at the hemline and what direction the visual lines inside the dress are running. A midi dress with vertical pleating or a vertical stripe pattern creates a continuous line that the eye travels along from the shoulder all the way down to the hem, regardless of how long that hem actually is. The vertical lines effectively override the natural shortening tendency of the longer length, because the eye is reading length through the lines rather than reading length through where the hem happens to fall. The key detail that makes this work is the direction of the lines. Horizontal stripes or horizontal pleating on the same length dress would create the opposite effect entirely, breaking up the line and shortening the silhouette. Vertical only, combined with a hem that sits closer to the ankle than the calf, this dress style becomes one of the most elegant and unexpectedly flattering choices a petite woman over 50 can wear. For styles down and 2 more to finish the complete picture. If this is already changing how you think about your dress shopping, please hit the like button right now. It genuinely helps this video reach more petite women over 50 who deserve to know exactly this before their next purchase. Drop a comment below and tell me which of these 4 styles you already own, or which one surprised you the most. I read every single comment. Share this with a petite friend who has been struggling in dressing rooms for years. Now let us finish with the final 2 styles. Dress style 5. The empire waist with a controlled skirt. Dress style number 5 is for the woman who wants softness and ease without sacrificing any of the elongating principles already covered. The empire waist dress, with the seam sitting just below the bust, paired with a skirt that has gentle controlled volume, rather than a very full or heavily gathered one. The empire seam creates an extremely high waist point, which on a petite frame produces one of the longest possible visual leg lines available in any dress silhouette. The entire length from just under the bust to the hem reads as leg, which is a significant proportion of the total height available on a smaller frame. The important detail here is the word controlled. An empire waist paired with an extremely full, heavily gathered skirt can add width that competes with the elongating effect of the high seam. A skirt with gentle, controlled volume, more of an A-line flow than a dramatically gathered one, preserves the lengthening benefit of the empire seam without adding unnecessary visual bulk. This style works beautifully in a soft flowing fabric and in a single color, for the same monochrome reasons already established. Dress style 6. The asymmetrical hem shift. The 6th and final dress style is the most distinctive on this list, and it is for the petite woman over 50 who wants her dress to do more than simply flatter quietly. The shift dress with a subtle asymmetrical hemline, slightly higher on one side and slightly longer on the other, in a clean simple silhouette through the body. The diagonal line created by an asymmetrical hem does something a perfectly straight hem cannot. It draws the eye along an angle rather than straight across, and a diagonal line reads to the eye as longer than a horizontal one of the same actual measurement. This is the exact same visual principle behind asymmetrical haircuts, simply applied to a hemline instead. On a petite frame, this creates a subtle but genuinely effective lengthening illusion at exactly the point The hemline, where most dresses tend to shorten the silhouette rather than extend it. Keep the asymmetry subtle. A difference of 1 to 2 inches between the high point and the low point of the hem is enough to create the lengthening diagonal without looking like an extreme or overly trend-driven choice. 6 dress styles. Every single one built around the same proportion principle. Use the vertical space, never interrupt it. The vertical sheath with a defined V neckline that follows the body in one unbroken color and line. The high-waisted fit and flare with a short bodice that corrects the most common petite torso proportion mistake. The monochrome wrap dress with a narrow belt that does 3 elongating jobs simultaneously. The vertical stripe or pleated midi that proves longer length is not the enemy when the lines inside the dress run the right direction. The empire waist with a controlled skirt that creates the longest possible leg line available in any silhouette. And the asymmetrical hem shift that uses a simple diagonal to lengthen exactly where most dresses fall short. None of these styles require an expensive wardrobe overhaul. They require knowing exactly what to look for the next time you are standing in a dressing room or scrolling through a rack. Subscribe to Ageless Glow if you have not already. Comment below and tell me which of these 6 styles you are adding to your wardrobe first. Share this with a petite friend who deserves to finally shop with confidence. And hit that like button before you go. Until next time, petite was never the problem. The right dress was simply waiting to be found. And now you know exactly which 6 to look for.